This is why in one of the books, and I'm going to read to you a quote very quickly from Professor Deepa Kumar, who wrote the book Islamophobia and the Politics of Empire. She writes how the reason there's so much Islamophobia is because they are trying to keep the Muslim community weak. She writes, and she wrote this for Rutgers University. When a nation goes to war with an external enemy, it inevitably turns against those it sees as incarnations of the enemy within the borders. The situation of Muslims in the US today bears a strong resemblance to that of Japanese Americans during World War II. Statistically, Americans are more likely to die from a bolt of lightning than from an act of terrorism. Actually, you're more likely to get killed by a toddler than you are by a terrorist. The focus on radicalized Muslim Americans serves not to keep the American people safe, but to whip up a sense of fear and paranoia which can be used to squash dissent and win consent for violations of civil rights at home and abroad. So she's saying the focus against the American Muslim community is not because there's a threat, but rather to justify political programs against the American Muslim community, and she documents it. So, what are our rights and how can we preserve them? My dear brothers and sisters, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spent his time in 4 areas. Practicing the deen and in ibadah and in tahajjud and dua, that is the essence and the core. Then he spent time teaching the deen, defending the deen, and helping the poor and the needy. And we must reflect those 4 teachings within our life if we likewise want to be successful. Otherwise, we'll have the story of one of my clients, Ibrahim Todashev. Ibrahim Todashev is a young Chechen American Muslim in Orlando. The FBI knocked on his door and they said, "We want to question you." He says, "I have nothing to hide. I've done nothing wrong." They said, "Don't worry, you're not in trouble. You don't have anything to hide. You don't need a lawyer. We just have a few questions. You don't need a lawyer." So he canceled his ticket. He had a ticket leaving the country. He delayed it so he could meet with the FBI agents. The FBI agents met with him and his friends and they told them, "Look, folks, you have 2 options. You can spy on your masajid, you can spy on the hookah lounges, and you can spy on the Muslim restaurants. I guess that's where Muslims hang out. Or we will throw you in jail. We'll take away your green card." FBI is not allowed to do this, but they did because he met with them without a lawyer. Then they interrogated him for 6 hours in his home. And after the 6th hour, they shot him 7 times, 6 or 7 times. It started in the gut, then here as he's falling, and finally in the top of his head, killing him. Very foolish to meet with law enforcement without a lawyer. I'm telling you, I've spoken with the top federal and state prosecutors. They all tell me the same thing. Tell your community not to meet with the FBI without a lawyer, especially if they have nothing to hide. Why should you subject yourself to interrogation? We shouldn't belittle ourselves. We are honorable people. We have nothing to hide. You want to speak with me? Speak to my lawyer. I don't have time. We have to seek honor through Allah and through protecting and knowing our rights, my dear brothers and sisters. So very quickly, I'm going to tell you about, inshallah, 4 articles from the Bill of Rights that protect us as Americans and why we need to understand them. The First Amendment. What is the First Amendment? Freedom of religion. It says the government cannot question us, cannot harass us, cannot treat us differently because of our religion. And if they do, they're violating it. The Fourth Amendment. What does the Fourth Amendment say? No. The Fourth Amendment says that the government cannot search our home, our person, our property without our permission unless they have a warrant. They cannot go through our personal belongings. The Fifth Amendment, and I don't have time to go into all the details. I only have 3 minutes remaining, so I'm just giving you a taste of it. Whoever has questions can speak to me, or I'm happy for, at no charge, alhamdulillah, through CARE, we can come and do a Know Your Rights, full Know Your Rights training at your local masjid at any time, inshallah. So the Fourth Amendment is that the government does not have the right to search our person and our property without our permission. That doesn't apply to digital things, as you can all tell. I've been saying for years the government is monitoring all our calls and telephones. People didn't believe it, but Eric Snowden, alhamdulillah, exposed it. The Fifth Amendment, you should all know the Fifth Amendment. What is it? Right to remain silent. My dear brothers and sisters, it's in there for a reason. It's because the founding fathers knew that if you spoke to law enforcement without a lawyer and you open your mouth, you're going to get yourself in trouble even though you didn't do anything wrong. And it's those that are innocent and those that have done nothing wrong, they're the ones that get in trouble because they're naive. Because did you know by law enforcement is allowed to lie to you? And you're not allowed to lie to them. You never lie to law enforcement. That's punishable by 5 years in jail. And this is what they do. They go and they question an innocent Muslim, and they keep asking him so many questions until he gets confused, and he makes a mistake in fact. Like, where were you yesterday? He forgets he mentioned that he went to Publix. Oh, you just lied to us. We're going to throw you in jail for 5 years unless you spy for us on your local masajid. That's what happens. This is why you should never speak to them. They say the fish that keeps its mouth closed never gets caught. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man samata naja," whoever is quiet will be safe. So the Fifth Amendment is that you have the right to remain silent. The Sixth Amendment is that you have the right to a lawyer. So, and alhamdulillah, CARE has free lawyers that we offer the community, inshallah, in these kinds of situations. We've helped many clients. So, my dear brothers and sisters, remember, there's over 50,000 federal laws a person can be in violation of at any given moment. It's very foolish to meet with law enforcement without an attorney. And we're not saying this because we're against law enforcement. No, because we support law enforcement, and when they wrongfully target our community, they make us less safe and less free. Less safe because you're missing the bigger threat, which isn't from the Muslim community. You know, when I was young, I was stopped because I attended a Muslim conference. I was held for 5 hours along with 40 other people at the border. I felt like I was in my local masjid. And I told them, I said, while you're wasting your time with me and all these aunties and uncles and little kids, real criminals can be getting by. He said, I'm worried about the same thing. And sure enough, that same night, a man who had killed an entire family in Canada got across the border with the bloody chainsaws and bloody axes. That he killed the family. Why? Because he wasn't Muslim. So when they focus on us, it makes us less safe. It also makes us less free because it infringes upon our civil rights. Remember, if law enforcement has a good reason to talk to you, they would get a warrant. If they're not, then they don't have a good reason to talk to you. Remember, you cannot talk yourself out of trouble. You can only talk yourself into trouble. By law, we're innocent until proven guilty. If you've done nothing wrong, never speak to them without a lawyer. This brother's going to get me, so I'm going to wrap up, inshallah. Very quickly, recognize your rights. The First Amendment, freedom to practice religion. Fourth Amendment, that the government cannot search your person or property without permission. Fifth Amendment, right to remain silent. Sixth Amendment, right to a lawyer. Never ever speak to law enforcement without a lawyer. It's the most foolish, most un-American, unpatriotic thing you can do. Defend civil rights, defend civil liberty by knowing your rights and protecting it. And as I always say, don't disobey Allah and you won't break the law. As American Muslims, we want to uphold justice and the rule of law for all people. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us, O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wattaqullaha la'allakum tuflihun. This is my final advice. Have patience. Patience means we don't sell out our identity. We don't hide our Muslim identity. We are proud of being Muslims. Sabiru means be more patient in defending the deen and defending our freedom than the enemies of Islam are attacking our faith. Rabitu means defend the Muslim community and have fear of Allah, and through that we will find, inshallah, success in the life and the next. And also remember, as American Muslims, we have freedom to practice our religion in the workplace. They cannot tell us to take off our hijab. They cannot fire us for wanting time for salah or for Jummah. We're here to protect your rights. Support organizations like ICNA, CARE, and all the others that will defend our rights. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakumullah khair to all the speakers. It is now actually time for Maghrib. We should head down to the Maghrib, to the prayer area, inshallah. After that will be dinner, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.